Welcome to Response-Able Parenting, the podcast that shows you how to parent in alignment to your emotions, needs, and goals versus your programming, bad advice, and let's face it, outdated strategies that just don't work. You'll get in the trenches support on nervous system and emotional regulation, critical mindset shifts, stronger communication strategies, and more. In this podcast, you'll gain transformational tools that take you from reacting to every frustration to responding with clarity, regulation, and finally setting the example you desire for your kids. I'm Becky Jennings, your new parenting coach, and this is the Response-Able Parenting podcast. Let's get into it. Hello. Welcome back to another episode. Oh my gosh, are we in for an episode today? I'm going to share a moment that I had with my son that I think is really important for you all to hear. My son, as you know, has ADHD. He's 9, and it's so easy to get in these loops where they're so predictable. You know, it's like you're not getting what you want, you're negotiating, you're doing all of these things. And it just, for us as the parent, it's like, when is enough for you, right? When are you going to show gratitude? I am bending over backwards. I'm engaging in negotiations. I'm doing a lot of the things you're asking for. And that's not real life, buddy. You need to get to the point where you understand that when it's a no, it's a no. You got to drop it. And like all these things go through our heads. So Friday night, the carnival came into town and we go Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because it is so much fun. The kids have an absolute blast. It's our neighbor school, so it's like all of the community kids are there. It's just like it's a 10 out of 10 across the board. It's so much fun. It's fun for us too. Like it's such a good time. Anyways, we went. I picked him up after school and we got there at 5, but the doors didn't open until 6. And so we pivoted, and in the moment, which is a rare pivot, but we worked on it. He and my youngest had a talk and came up with a plan. But I gave him 2 options. I said, number 1, we could go to the ice cream shop and then just go home and just spend the night at home, and we can do a movie night and we can go to the carnival tomorrow. That was a no-go. And then the other option was we could stop at a restaurant here. We could get a treat at this restaurant. We could kill some time at this restaurant, but we then can't have a treat on the inside. You know, like trying to see, can I get a treat on the inside? How can I get both treats? You know, all of that was happening. Ultimately, came down to, hey, we'll kill an hour at the ice cream shop. We'll read a book. We'll do all this stuff. And we'll go in right when the doors open at 6, and we'll leave at 7:30, and we'll do rides, and we won't do like the food and stuff like that. Great. So everything was a yes. There was like no conflict, no fighting. When we got to the rides, he was like, can I have $20? And I know my youngest isn't riding the rides. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to give you $30. And he said, wow, bold choice, Mom, which was funny. And he was like, that's really nice. Thank you. Great. We're having a great time. He's riding the rides. I also knew we were going 3 days in a row, so had no problem. I was like, this is going to last for a couple days, even though it was a good win for the team, right? And so then we do head over to the games. We're not eating treats, which I was very pleased with, but we do head over to the games, and we're playing like so many games. He's playing every game that he wants. He's definitely getting tickets. Like everything is like win, 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 win. He gets the food that he wants, right? Not a treat, but he gets the food he wants. So every single thing is just like falling in his favor, and he is having the best time, and I'm with him, and he has my attention, and it's just working out really well. So we get our food to go because the meter of the car's up. We go home, and he's like, on the way home, he's like, hey, do you think that we could watch a movie? And I said, oh, it's a little late. We can't start a movie. And he said, can we do anything? And I said, well, maybe we could watch 1 episode of a show, and that could be fine. He's like, wow, thanks. So everything, I'm not talking, everything was going well. And I'm definitely saying more yes, but he's acting really kind. And so he's, in my opinion, deserving of the yes. I'm in the space where I'm like, we're teaching constantly. Good things happen when you are doing good things. It's like it's a reciprocal loop. If you treat people nicely, if you treat people kindly, they are kind to you in response. If you do nice things for the house is supportive to you. So we're really trying to embed this. And so when I have the opportunity and it's not inconvenient and I have the bandwidth, I'm going to lean in. So we did. We got brushing teeth fine, but we started going to bed. I was in the bottom bunk with my youngest. I had already been up there, said goodnight to him. I was solo parenting, so I was on the bottom bunk saying goodnight to him. We were like reading a story, and things kept falling down from the top bunk. And I had said, hey, please stop throwing things. And by the way, this is something that is a rule in our house, that you can't throw things in the room, you especially can't throw things from the top bunk because it could break something. And so he kept throwing things from the top bunk, and he kept being like, what? It's not me. I didn't do it. It was the wind, or it was this, or whatever. And so he did it again. And of course he did it one more time. So I went up to the top bunk and I said, do you need my attention? And he said, what? And I said, do you need my attention? And he looked at me and I said, because you're throwing things out of the top bunk, I have now asked you 2 times. So I can only assume, unless you tell me otherwise, that you need my attention. And this is how you're choosing to get it. And he looked at me and he said, no, I'm okay. And so I said, please stop throwing things out of the top bunk. And I said, and honestly, this is something that we're working on, but this is the type of stuff that after a really wonderful evening where it was a yes day for you, that it feels frustrating to me that you would continue to do something that we've been working on in a negative way, especially after all the things that we just did. We had a little bit of a conversation about that, and he went to bed saying, you know what, I understand. There was so much stuff that was good. I want to do the same good stuff tomorrow, because he knew the carnival was coming up tomorrow. And so he was very excited about having day 2 of the carnival, probably even more time than we were able to tonight. So we wake up in the morning and the first thing's out of his mouth, when are we going to the carnival? I said, 1 o'clock. He said, can it be 12:30? I said, Hunter, it's going to be 1 o'clock. He's like, okay, but I'm wondering, is there any way we can make it 12:30? And the storylines that start kind of pumping through my head, like, oh my gosh, he's being so ungrateful. Why is it always like, why does he always have to do this? Why can't he just be like, thank you so much, period. Thank you so much. So I'm starting to get a little frustrated. And I said, no, Hunter, we are going at 1 o'clock. And I said, we have, I listed out, these are the things that has to get accomplished before we leave. So why don't you spend this time and this energy while you're kind of revved up and go do these chores, go do the things? Well, no, that just did not happen. It was, how many different ways can I poke the bear all morning long, to the point where my half an hour workout ended up being an hour because I had to stop so many different times to go manage conflict, and I had to, remind and redirect. And it was just like, I was feeling so triggered and so frustrated by this moment, because everything in my body was like, geez, how ungrateful. And why is he gambling with the opportunity to lose the carnival? That did not make any sense to me, because I was just sitting here going, the carnival is when good things are done. It's not, you don't just get it. It's not just a thing that we're doing because even if you act whatever way you're going to act, you're going to get the carnival. That's not the case. It's like, when we're doing great, when we're treating each other kindly, when we're actually doing what is expected, the carnival is a result of those good things. And it just was like not clicking. And even when I said, like, you're going to lose the carnival because of the way that you are acting and because of the way you're treating me, you have one more chance. He was just like, screw it. I'm not going to do it. I walked him into the room and I said, as I'm finishing my workout, here are the 4 things on your chore list that haven't been done. So just take ownership, do these, and then we'll be back on track. Then I hear him from the other room being like, I already did that. Well, it's Wednesday, so I don't need to do that. And I don't need to do this. And I was like, that's it. It's gone. It's gone. If you're going to nitpick and try to figure out how you can, in my head, I'm like, weasel out of not doing your responsibilities, then no. Then it's a no. And so I pulled the carnival. And I said, we're not going to do it. And I said, but honestly, I'm not going to penalize your brother who has done the things that he needs to get done. So I will take him to the carnival and you can stay home with your grandma. And he's like, I knew it. I knew it. I knew today was going to go like this, which made me pause. We got some space. I went into the living room. He went into his bedroom. And I sat there for a second and I said, what was I expecting? Where is the expectation gap? The expectation gap is where all the conflict happens. It's when we have this vision, we have this idea, we have this picture in our head of what we want to happen, what we expect based off the verbal instructions we've given, and the gap is the reality and the skill set that our kids have. So it's quite large. Our expectations are here. I don't know if you can see this if you're watching on YouTube, you can see it, but just imagine my hands like by my forehead. And their reality, just imagine my hand is like well below my chin, like at my chest. That huge gap is the space between, and that is where all the conflict, all the resentment, all the frustration, and honestly, the lack of skills lives, and it just creates these perpetual loops where we just get more and more resentful of our child, these loops that just solidify this bad kid narrative for them, and then we actually never get out of this because we just our nervous system loves predictability, and so it now forever predicts that we're going to be in these loops. This is how it goes, and in order to protect myself, I need to basically either say no to everything, or I just need to be way more authoritarian and way more strict and never let him get away with anything. And that just feels awful because as an ADHD parent, you can be correcting everything. They give us so many opportunities to come down on them. And this is just like another way to solidify that you're just doing it wrong. And so I did it differently this time around. And I want to share how that went. Can I be super real with you and tell you a personal story? A few years back, my son, the whole reason why I do the job I do today, was having one of those fiery moments. He was talking back, demanding it be his way. He was refusing to listen to any of our solutions, and the moment was getting really intense. My husband looked at me and said, well, you know all the parenting stuff, fix this. I completely froze. All the scripts from the books I'd read, all the strategies from the podcasts I'd listened to completely disappeared from my brain in that moment. But based on the volume of challenges that we were having with our strong-willed ADHD son, I knew I had to figure out a different way, because panicking in the moment and grasping at anything only to not follow through at all and end up yelling just wasn't working. From this experience, I developed a repeatable, easy to remember and easy to follow system that literally works with every single triggering moment. I can attest to it because there are many in my life. Now I can show up the way I want. I can communicate in a way that actually resonates with my strong-willed child. If this sounds like a solution for what's happening in your home, take these next 2 steps. Number 1, watch the free training about my rewiring process in the show notes. And then number 2, book your free call. On that call, we will talk about what's happening in your home, and you will get a customized solution that works best for you. I assure you, this doesn't have to feel as hard day in and day out as it does. There is the solution, and I'm so excited to talk to you about it. We've been practicing getting out of patterns a lot, and this was just a new pattern that I recognized when I spent some intentional time listening to my expectation gap and really diving in. What did I expect? And did he have the skills? And were my expectations way higher than what he's capable of doing? And let me see if I can get to the bottom of this. And so I went into the room, and he was kind of kind of all like snuggled up into the beanbag and kind of, you're mean. Like, I don't like you. You're mean to me, that stuff, which is a predictable response for when he has done something wrong and he wants to deflect because he doesn't want to feel that sort of rejection. And so I sat down and I said, we're in a pattern, aren't we? And he's like, what? I said, yeah, I think we've done this before, haven't we? Where there's a really exciting thing coming up and, it's a couple hours until that shows up. And there's like, just even the anticipation, which we now know that dopamine isn't just getting the thing, even anticipating the thing is really, really stimulating for them, and it can overwhelm the system. So I said, yeah, even just waiting and getting excited about the thing, that was causing you to feel dysregulated, wasn't it? He's like, yeah. Like he was actually shocked that I decoded his feelings. I said, tell me more about that. And he said, well, that's why I was asking you to move it up a half an hour, because I knew that I wouldn't be able to do it and that it'd get taken away and I'd be so upset. He's like, that's why I wanted it to be a half an hour earlier so that I didn't have to, so that I didn't have more time to mess up, which is so heartbreaking just to think about, like, his little body trying so hard for so long to manage his dysregulation. And I said, and so during that time, what were you feeling? And he said, well, I was just feeling like chaotic. I was feeling, like busy in my body. I was feeling really, kind of stressed. I said, yeah, I could tell you were definitely doing that. And I said, is that why you started to kind of pick a fight with your little brother? Is that why you started interrupting me so much during my workout? He was like, yeah. And I said, in those moments, does that sort of give you what you're looking for? He said, yeah, a lot. I said, tell me more. And he's like, well, I know that, like, I kind of feel good when I fight with Trey. And I said, why is that? He's like, because then I'm not the only one. I was like, there it is. There it is. And I said, oh, does that mean, so like when I'm doing the right thing and I'm following through with our agreement and you can see that I'm not giving in to the fight and you keep pushing and you keep pushing and you keep pushing, and then when I do and I say something angry or I take something away, then you're not the only one in pain anymore, huh? He was like, and he just exploded, sobbing, just he let it all out. I mean, sobbing. He's like, I always feel alone in the bad moments. I always feel like it's my fault. I always feel like I'm the only one. I never think anybody feels like this. And so to have that release of like, oh my God, somebody understands. And I said, so conflict is actually helpful for you because then you don't feel alone in the bad feelings. Then somebody else has done something bad and it's not all on you. Oh my God, second round of floodgates. Like, yes, I don't want to feel alone in this. Like, I don't want to be the only one who's doing the bad thing. Oh my goodness. So such an important breakthrough for him because he just was like, you get it. You get it that this is why I'm doing the thing. I'm not a bad kid. I just don't want to be, I have too much energy. I'm too excited. The anticipation of something is too much. And it's funny, now that I'm saying this, a couple weeks ago, we had tickets to go to the Dodgers game. And the whole entire Little League, not the whole entire, but like a bunch of the Little League, probably like 200 people were going to this. And so like he knew his friends were going to be there. And the whole morning was a disaster because he couldn't handle the anticipation of a really fun thing. And so now we know, he even told us, he said, don't tell me that fun things are happening because I'll ruin it. he knows that that's something of his. It's like anything that's really juicy, really awesome, like family movie night, or like an outing, or going to laser tag, or literally anything. It could be anything that isn't out, or that is out of the ordinary. That's something exciting. He will sabotage it. And so we were talking about what self-sabotage looks like and what we could do instead of resorting to conflict, what we could do instead. And, it's funny because he even attempted, when he started pushing and poking at me early in the morning, he said, "Hey, Mom, I think I could really use a pillow fight," which is something that we've done in the past for when he's feeling, or when he's really dysregulated. It's when I've clocked it that he's dysregulated that I offer a pillow fight because I'm still in my wherewithal. But I was too dysregulated to read the cue or even hear him or even want to hear him, that he was like, "Hey, I think I need a pillow fight right now. Could you do that?" And I rejected that. I was like, "No, I can't. I'm too frustrated right now." But he had even asked because he felt himself going down that pattern of, I'm going to lose this. So his pattern is, something really exciting is coming. Oh my gosh, I can't handle that. The dopamine seeking, the anticipation of it is too much. I don't know what to do with that energy. So with that energy, in order to get any bit of that right now, because that's so exciting, I'm going to create conflict and do mischievous things that I'm not supposed to be doing, even though I know I'm not supposed to be doing them, because that's going to get attention. And then maybe that attention is going to give me what I need. Oops, pivot. That's not going to give me what I need. But like the conflict, that's definitely activating the part of his brain that is that dopamine seeking. So he's getting a little bit of it, even though he knows the risk is right there that he could lose the exact thing that he's so excited about. Then he loses it. Then he starts to shame spiral and he starts to pour on all of this negative self-talk and he's like, I always say to myself, why are you so stupid? Why do you do this to yourself? What's wrong with you? And then he said, he goes, I'm both sad that I lost it, but I'm more mad at myself that I did it again. Because he's like, I know I'm not supposed to do it. I know what I'm supposed to be doing. But in the moment, I can't control it and it takes over. And then I feel so angry at myself. And then that's when I ask you, can I earn it back? Can I please earn it back? Can I do anything to earn it back? And then, because I'm in my feelings of how ungrateful is this child that I don't allow him to earn it back. And so we identified this very predictable pattern that we both get in, where I view everything as, you are so ungrateful. Like, why can't you just be grateful? Why do you have to keep asking? When are you going to be satiated? I've given you so many things. I'm saying yes. Like, I literally am not doing anything mean. All I'm asking for you to do is your responsibilities. You're trying to get out of them any way possible. And that's not going to earn you the thing. So in my head, my subconscious thoughts are like, that would never fly in my house. And how dare this kid think he is so above all of these responsibilities that are communal in our home that we have to cooperate together to achieve. Like, how dare he is what's kind of starts to flood in. And then I'm getting more and more frustrated that like all of the things that I'm trying to accomplish ahead of this ticking time clock is not being able to be accomplished because he keeps interrupting with conflict. All the while he's like, oh crap, I'm losing this and I'm going down with the ship. And I hate that I do this. So long way around. I'm sure every person who has a child, an ADHD child, is just like, holy cow, this is exactly what we did. So we came to the conclusion of, we are going to notice this pattern way ahead of time. That my pattern is, when I see him asking relentlessly for more, I start to feel, you're ungrateful. And I grew up in a generation and I grew up in a family where gratitude for scraps was expected, like really grateful for whatever you got, because it was pretty much nothing. So be as grateful as humanly possible for the smallest of things. Also, a total aside, and I'm going to do a podcast on this too because I think it's important, is my child did not grow up in my reality. So he does not know what it feels like to have had nothing and be grateful for nothing. Because I had nothing, I give a lot to him. And so he has a different reality. So it's kind of on me to not assume that he knows my experience and not demand of him to know my reality and perform accordingly. That's an aside. But we now also got to a real deep root for him, which is when something is really exciting, it's almost too exciting for me to handle. And I need to know exactly what to do with myself and with my body and how to ask for help so I don't seek conflict, so I don't lose it. So then I don't reaffirm in my body, I'm a bad kid. Look at how terrible I am. I'm not deserving. I always mess it up. And look at me. I did it again. I'm super sad, but I'm more mad at myself for doing so. The release of tears showed me that we had gotten somewhere, that he finally felt seen, heard, and understood in a way that I hadn't been able to see and hear him. And now we have a plan in place. So we now have a code word for when he starts to show these particular behaviors. So he said fun is the code word. So now I get to say fun and remind him, if he's still doing the thing, that the consequence will be the thing is going away. The fun thing is going away. So when we say fun, it is, this is how I'm going to regulate my body. He needs to create conflict. So he is going to create conflict on a pillow or on the beanbag. He's going to punch it. He's going to hit it. He's going to kick it. He's going to poke at it. He's going to do all the things in order to get that anger out of his body. If that doesn't work, we're going to arrow to a pillow fight to help him get it out of his body. So we now have a plan in place for when this happens, for when an exciting thing is on the horizon. It's too much for his little brain and body to handle, and he's going to be on the track of losing it, essentially. And how can we build that skill set for him that he can manage the excitement, manage the feelings in his body, and also be aware of what our expectations are. And so he's not constantly doing the exact opposite of what we were hoping to see. Okay, that was a lot. I just shared a lot. But I think it's important to see the process. And this is what I walk my clients through every single day inside of the community is like, what are the patterns? When we can read our patterns, we can actually approach them from a perspective that allows us to soften towards our children and allows us to see the skill gap. And then it allows us to actually put a skill in place for us and help them develop a skill. Because it's not one-sided. Our kids aren't just doing this to us. We continue to grow. This is all about us learning what our next growth edge is, what our next, level of parenting is. Because what's happening at 4, 5, and 6 is going to be vastly different from 9, 10, and 11. And so there's a new us that has to form as a new them begins to form. So we can't stay rigid. We have to continue to grow and develop and continue to refine our skills. All the while, we're starting to learn more about our children and we're starting to be able to help them with their patterns so that we can give them the skills as well. And that's what I help with my clients every single day is like, even if you know the pattern, you're like, yeah, I always do that. But it's what to do next. How does this work with an ADHD brain? What is a communication style that actually resonates and lands with them? What's a nervous system protocol that would actually benefit you? How do you, in the heat of the moment and off, when the temperature is cooled down, what do you do? How do you address it so that you're not constantly falling back into this pattern? Because that's exhausting. It's exhausting and it builds resentment. And then we just have a whole new host of triggers and patterns that we fall into, especially when we get to this stage. And so having somebody like myself be able to come in and look at the patterns and help you decipher what is going on for you, and where we can put different systems in place that would feel supportive to you in the moment, that would help build skills outside of the moment and build skills in the moment. This is what I love doing. And I have a repeatable system that works with every single parent that I've worked with inside of my program. It's not just an umbrella strategy. Like, I get to know you. I get to know what's going on for your kid based off what you're telling me. And we get to really dial in a strategy that works for you, not a strategy that works for all. What works for you? So if this is something that sounds like exactly like what you're experiencing, the constant conflict, the dopamine seeking, the never being satiated, the never having enough, the always asking for more, and just what that brings up in your body. If that's you, we got to talk, because there has been so much growth. And I would never have been able to have this deep of a conversation. And by the way, the conversation lasted for like 3 minutes. So that's a win. I would never have been able to have that conversation, to be able to understand where he was and really flush that out without all of the stuff we've been doing leading up to this. That was a big breakthrough for both him and I. But that came on the heels of a lot of systems work that we have been working on. So it doesn't matter where you're starting from. There's so much stuff we can do that starts building the foundation of trust, that starts building this communication language between the two of you, so that conversations like this can happen and that we actually have a positive outcome at the end. Like I said, this conversation wouldn't have happened 3 years ago. This conversation was due to all of the work that we've been putting in up until now. And so we were able to get it done. I was able to regulate myself. He was able to regulate himself. We had our protocols that we followed. We had a conversation. It flowed. It wasn't, this is where we're getting. This is the future of the relationship, is being able to be like, we're in the pattern. Oh, we don't have to dive so deep into the pattern. We can just say, we're in the pattern. This is the code word. This is what we do. This is what you do. Are we okay? What can we improve next time? What did we learn from this? That's how I want my kid to learn. I don't want him to learn through pain and punishment. This is how I want my kid to start to learn how to problem solve. This is how we build emotional intelligence, understanding what's happening in our body. What is that telling us? What is it telling us that we need? All right, let's bring that to the table. Say what I need. Say what's going on for me. And then with the person, problem solve, right? What's coming up for you? How is that impacting you? What can we do together? Does that work? Let's test it out. That's the beauty of teaching this emotional intelligence. And, especially with ADHD, especially with impulsivity, especially with challenging executive functioning, to be able to build these systems in, so it's not just, I follow my impulse, whatever happens, happens. Generally, it's not great. I'm just going to get the consequence, and I'm just going to solidify the fact that I'm a terrible kid. I don't want that. So instead, we get to work with them and build and develop these skills so that in the hard moments, they can do stuff. They know what to do. All right. If that sounds like you, go ahead, book your free call with me. Let's dive in. I want to hear about your current situation. I want to know what's going on for you. And I want to see if what I do as a coach feels like it would be supportive to you. Because these days don't have to be days and days and days on end. I want you to be like, I have good moments. I have more good moments than I have bad moments with my ADHD child. That's my ultimate goal. These conflicts are going to happen. Conflict happens in any relationship. Doesn't matter how whatever you are. Conflict is a part of life, but it's what we do around the conflict. It's the skills, it's the communication, it's all of that we can actually teach. And it actually doesn't have to go in one ear, out the other with these kids. They can actually learn this. And this was just such evidence, and it was so beautiful. And I wanted to share that with you, that, we ultimately had an incredible day. And like I've mentioned on this podcast before, I'm always going to show up and authentically share the bumps in the road that I experience as a coach and how I utilize what I do as a coach in my own home and how it is turning, just how it is impacting my son's life in such a different way, and just how it's improving skills hand over fist and just making such a difference. So thank you for joining me yet again, and have a great rest of your week. Thank you for listening to the Responsible Parenting Podcast. If you like what you heard, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. If you know someone who would benefit from this podcast, I'd be honored if you'd share this episode with them. Until next time, know that you are enough, you are capable, you've made it through all of your hardest days, and we will keep growing on this parenting journey together. This podcast was produced by Kim Kelty and myself, Becky Jennings, and edited by the Kelty Method, Branding and Podcasting.